Dr. Eleanor Voss, a woman with sharp, intelligent features and piercing green eyes, adjusts her khaki jacket, her gaze fixed on the map in her hands. Beside her, Liam Carter, a young man with a skeptical demeanor, peers into the mist, his plaid shirt barely visible in the dim light.
This is where the map leads, Liam. The ancient site should be somewhere close,
she says, her voice filled with a mix of excitement and apprehension.
Let's hope it's more than just old rocks.
Liam replies, his skepticism evident. As they venture deeper, the trees seem to close in around them, their twisted branches resembling skeletal hands reaching out to ensnare the unwary. Dr. Eleanor Voss approaches the temple, her heart pounding with each step. Her flashlight flickers over the carvings, revealing scenes of rituals and warnings etched by ancient hands.
Incredible. These symbols speak of a force they feared,
she murmurs, tracing the lines with her fingers. Liam Carter stands back, his earlier skepticism wavering in the face of such ancient artistry.
Do you think any of it is true?
He asks, his voice barely a whisper. Dr. Eleanor Voss feels the hairs on her neck rise as a cold breeze brushes past her.
Do you hear that? It's like voices,
she says, her eyes scanning the shadows. Liam Carter, now visibly unnerved, nods.
I thought it was just the wind, but it feels like we're being watched.
He admits, his earlier sarcasm replaced by genuine fear. The ground beneath them trembles, dust cascading from the temple's ceiling. Dr. Eleanor Voss stumbles back, her eyes wide with shock.
What have I done?
She gasps, watching as the carvings glow with an eerie light. Liam Carter rushes to her side, panic overtaking him.
We need to get out of here,
he shouts, but his voice is drowned out by a resonant growl that seems to emanate from the very stones of the temple. In the dim, flickering light, the entity looms, its form shifting with malice. Dr. Eleanor Voss stands frozen, the weight of ancient warning pressing down upon her.
We have to stop it,
she insists, her voice barely steady. Liam Carter, understanding the gravity of their situation, nods.
The carvings, they must hold the key,
he says, desperation lacing his words as they prepare to enact a desperate ritual. Dr. Eleanor Voss chants the ancient words, her hand clutching the glowing tablet. Liam Carter, his face a mask of terror, joins her, his voice faltering under the strain. As the ritual reaches its crescendo, the entity's wrathful gaze falls upon them.
Eleanor, it's too late!
Liam cries, but his plea is cut short as tendrils of shadow envelop him, consuming his form in a flash of blinding light. Dr. Eleanor Voss stumbles through the forest, the ground trembling beneath her.
Liam,
she whispers, tears mingling with the dirt on her cheeks. Clutching the tablet, she turns back to see the temple sinking into the earth, the forest reclaiming its secrets. As she pauses by a stream, the tablet begins to glow faintly. Dr. Eleanor Voss catches her reflection in the water, her eyes shining with the same malevolent light that once marked the entity. The forest falls silent once more, the echoes of ancient warnings lingering in the air. Dr. Vivian Hart sat at her cluttered desk, her gaze fixed on the mysterious package that had arrived earlier. The note inside was cryptic, yet it tugged at her curiosity.
The truth lies where the mad were silenced,
she read aloud, pondering its meaning. Marcus Cole, her assistant, was skeptical as always.
Are you sure it's safe to follow such vague clues?
He asked, glancing warily at the key enclosed in the package. Dr. Vivian Hart and Marcus approached the asylum, their footsteps crunching on the overgrown path. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and the distant sound of dripping water echoed through the desolate grounds.
This place gives me the creeps,
Marcus admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Vivian nodded, her resolve unwavering despite the unease settling in her gut. Dr. Vivian Hart opened a dusty journal, its pages filled with accounts of bizarre experiments on the patients. As they ventured deeper, the air grew colder, and strange whispers in an unknown language seemed to echo from the walls. Marcus shivered, feeling the weight of unseen eyes upon them.
Did you hear that?
He trembled, glancing nervously at the shadows that seemed to shift as they moved. Vivian and Marcus stepped into the archive, awed by the sheer volume of forbidden knowledge before them. Each artifact seemed to pulse with a dark energy, drawing them in with its sinister allure. Vivian picked up a tome, its cover etched with symbols of creatures beyond comprehension.
These must be the forbidden beings,
she murmured, tracing the symbols with her fingers. The room was suddenly filled with a chilling cold, and Marcus watched in horror as the hollow warden materialized, its skeletal form towering over him. The shrouded weaver spun webs of illusion around them, and the echoing one whispered their names in a haunting chorus.
Vivian, do something!
Marcus cried, his voice filled with terror as the creatures advanced. Vivian's voice was steady as she chanted from the ancient texts, her eyes alight with determination. The creatures screeched in agony as they were pulled back into the void, but the cost was high. The asylum crumbled around them, and Vivian fled, the key clutched tightly in her hand. As she reached the forest's edge, she heard the echoing one's voice trailing behind her, calling her name. Vivian looked back, watching as the asylum was swallowed by the earth, the fog consuming it entirely. She glanced at the key in her hand, now rusting and decayed. In a nearby puddle, her reflection stared back with the same malevolent glow as the creatures. A whisper echoed in her mind, chilling her to the bone.
"You are marked, and they will find you."
She dropped the key, her breath quickening as the rust spread up her fingers like a creeping infection. The whispers grew louder, overlapping into a cacophony of voices, some familiar, some alien. The forest around her seemed to close in, the trees twisting into grotesque shapes. Shadows moved where there should be none, and the air grew heavy with the scent of decay.
Suddenly, the ground beneath her feet shifted. She stumbled back, only to see the puddle ripple unnaturally. Her reflection grinned, its glowing eyes widening as it reached out. Vivian screamed, but no sound came out. The last thing she saw was the fog closing in and the whisper, now deafening. A faint, distorted laugh echoes, followed by silence.
Dr. Sheila Marlowe wandered down the narrow path, her eyes scanning the surroundings for any sign of life. The village seemed deserted, yet she felt the weight of unseen eyes upon her.
This place holds the secrets I've been searching for,
she whispered to herself, clutching her notebook tightly. Dr. Marlowe paused before one of the trees, tracing her fingers over the strange carvings. The symbols seemed to pulse with a life of their own, and the whispers grew louder in her ears.
What do these mean?
She wondered aloud, feeling a chill run down her spine. The villagers surrounded Dr. Marlowe, their eyes cold and unwelcoming. One of them, an elder with a voice like gravel, stepped forward.
"You should not have come here,"
he warned, his gaze piercing.
I'm only here to learn,
she replied, trying to mask her fear with determination. Dr. Marlowe watched from the shadows, her heart pounding in her chest. The villagers chanted in a language she couldn't understand, their faces illuminated by the crimson moonlight.
This is the ritual,
she realized, her mind racing with the implications. Dr. Marlowe stumbled backward as the entity broke free, its form twisting and changing before her eyes. The ground shook, and the village descended into chaos.
I have to get out,
she thought desperately, turning to flee as the villagers screamed in terror. Dr. Marlowe ran through the forest, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The whispers followed her, echoing in her mind.
Please let me make it out,
she prayed, pushing herself to keep going, despite the fear clawing at her. Dr. Marlowe sat up in bed, her heart still racing from the dreams. She glanced at the mirror, only to see her reflection warp and twist. On her desk, where the journal once lay, the words, "The silence is a lie," were scrawled ominously.
It's not over,
she whispered, a shiver coursing through her.
Dr. Alaric Kane, a historian with a rugged, weathered face, steps out of his car, the map clutched tightly in his hand. Lila Voss, his assistant, follows closely, her piercing blue eyes scanning the surroundings.
This is it, Lila. The village from the manuscript.
He says, his voice tinged with a mixture of excitement and unease. Lila Voss moves closer to the frescoes, her fingers tracing the outlines of the shadowy figure, the hollowed watcher.
These depictions, they seem to tell a story of summoning.
She whispers, her skepticism giving way to intrigue. Dr. Kane nods, his eyes narrowing as he examines a crumbling fragment of the manuscript. Dr. Kane jerks his head towards the sound, his heart pounding. Lila grips his arm, fear creeping into her voice.
Did you hear that? It sounded like a warning,
she says, her facade of confidence cracking. The villagers lurking in the shadows avert their eyes and mutter cryptic phrases, their behavior growing increasingly erratic. Dr. Kane reads aloud from the manuscript, his voice resonating through the empty church. The ground shakes, and Lila stumbles backward, her eyes wide with horror. The hollowed watcher materializes, its grotesque form towering over them. Its glowing green eyes pierce through the darkness, and reality warps as the church distorts into a nightmarish labyrinth. Dr. Kane, his face etched with determination, chants the incantation, the manuscript trembling in his hands. Lila, her final moments marked by sheer terror, is consumed by the hollowed watcher, her screams echoing through the distorted church. The entity vanishes, leaving Dr. Kane scarred, both physically and mentally. Dr. Kane stumbles away from the collapsing church, the fog closing in around it. As he looks back, the manuscript emits a sickly green glow, and his reflection in a nearby puddle reveals his eyes shining with the same malevolent light. A whisper echoes in the air.
You are marked, and it will find you.
Leaving him haunted by what he has unleashed.